Welcome to Fear Street.
This happened in the late winter, early spring of 2020. 2 months before this event occurred, I had a strange dream. In the dream, my then fiancé, now husband, and I lived in this big house that had way more rooms than what we needed. We had one bathroom for using the toilet and one bathroom for showering, and another had nothing but a large bathtub in the center of the room. Most of the rooms were empty, completely devoid of any purpose. There was a staircase in the house that went up to the roof, and a tiny door that you opened to a patio that was on the roof. The view from the rooftop patio was of downtown Ogden, Utah. Beneath that patio was a bunch of random closets with white shuttered folding doors. I texted my husband about the dream because it was bizarre, and I remembered it very vividly. I'm glad that I had the dream in writing because what happened next was one of the most unusual things that's ever happened in my life. 8 weeks later, I was driving through the canyon near our home, and I noticed there was a house for sale. I've always felt a desire to live in this canyon if an affordable house popped up. From what I've heard, you need to patiently wait for someone to die for a home to go on the market. Unfortunately, I'd forgot to look up the sale listing right away. When it sprang to mind, all I could remember was that the house was a pinkish color. So I googled house for sale in Ogden Canyon, and there were only 2 homes for sale, and one of them was a pinkish color. I figured that must be the one. I requested more info online, and within 5 minutes a real estate agent called me. She asked me if I wanted to see the house. This was during COVID quarantining, and I said, "Oh my God, finally something to do. Yes, I want to see the house." Even though I had no intention of buying a house. The real estate agent asked if I wanted to see it right now, and I said, "Yes, let's go." And we grabbed our masks and got in the car. While my husband and I were driving there, he said, "I wonder if it's my buddy's old house. He lived in the canyon, but he died a couple years ago." We drove through the winding canyon following the river, past the waterfall, and when the GPS had us turn off the road onto a small bridge about the width of my car, I realized this was not the house that I saw for sale originally when I had driven by. We arrive at the house and can tell it needs work. The siding was worn, there were flower pots and kitschy yard decor outside that had been out in the elements for years, and a rickety old trellis that might fall down at any moment. The shape of the house was unusual, and it looked as though multiple rooms had been added to the original structure. The real estate agent pulled up. We greeted each other and began chatting about the house. I had mentioned to her about someone having to die to get a house in this area. She responded that the owner of this house had been the caretaker for the mansion up on the hill, and that he had died about 2 years ago. I'm fully aware how cliche that sounds. The real estate agent unlocked the door, and I went inside first. The first thing I saw was a shadowy figure running away, and I yelled. And then I played it off like, "Ha, I'm such an idiot," I scared myself. It looked like one of those yard decor silhouettes of a cowboy leaning, except it was shadowy instead of solid black. It fled quickly as if we had scared it. It went from an almost human shape into a much smaller, more circular shape, and left the room as fast as a startled animal would. Now I'm a skeptic down to my core, but I know what I saw. I saw a shadow moving quickly away from me as if it wasn't expecting me. I won't say it was a ghost or a deceased human, but I know what a shadow looks like, and I definitely saw one. The house was bizarre. It had a bunch of rooms that didn't really seem to have a purpose. You couldn't distinguish what was a bedroom and what was a living room. The outside of the house had a bunch of repurposed doors on it in place of siding. It was as if they would find doors and windows at thrift shops or dumps and just use anything and everything to build more rooms onto the house. There were doors everywhere, and most rooms had 2 or more mismatched doors to them. There were multiple bathrooms, one with just a shower, one with just a bathtub. As we were walking through, we were both feeling kind of weird. In one of the lower rooms was nothing but white shuttered folding doors. Then there was a small staircase that went up to a tiny door, and when you opened the tiny door, there was a patio on the roof of the garage. My heart started fluttering as I realized it was the house from my dream a couple months ago. I didn't want to say that in front of the real estate agent, so I kept quiet. And then the craziest thing happened. I walked up the small staircase to the little door to look at the patio above the garage, and the exact moment I opened the door to the outside, a huge car crash occurred. A car in the canyon hit a telephone pole, and there was a loud explosion. The live wires hit the road and sparks went flying. There was a bright flash like lightning, and it sounded like some kind of illegal motorcycle popping, like the noise a bullet bike makes. And suddenly, the power went out in the house. The traffic in the canyon started backing up, and police arrived and shut down the canyon completely. My husband and myself and the real estate agent just stood in the windows watching the scene unfold across the river. When we left the house, the second we get in the car, my husband is adamant. No way. That house is haunted. I'm never going back there. And I said, what did you see? Because I saw something too. He said that he had seen a shadowy figure huddled up in the corner of the room with all the folding closet doors. It was crouching, as if hiding. I told him I saw a shadow too, the second we walked in. Then I asked him if he remembered the dream I had had about the weird house. And then I told him that that was the house from my dream. Hey, let's just get out of here now, was the only thing he said. And when we got home, he Googled his friend's name. I'm sure you can guess the rest. It was his dead friend's old house. But it didn't end there. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning all evening. I felt like someone was standing next to our bed watching us. I asked whatever it was to please leave. But it came back the next night, and again, I asked it to leave. It never came back after that. I'm a skeptic, and I really don't believe in this stuff most of the time. But I'd be willing to swear on the Bible that this entire story is true. I'm not going off a vague memory from 6 years ago. This was written fresh after it happened in 2020. Oddly enough, the listing is still viewable as of now, but I wouldn't recommend that anybody go there. Haunted houses are not always scary places to be. To me, what makes the presence of an unseen intelligence frightening is the unknown factor, or the manner in which it can present itself in such a way that it appears to intend to create fear. There's also the way in which a place is haunted that can contribute to it being frightening, as opposed to enlivening, or intensifying in terms of how we can experience other sides of reality that aren't common or immediately obvious. I've found that spaces intentionally fashioned to invite spiritual energy can evoke a distinct feeling and experience, differing significantly from the garden variety hauntings that can include residual emotional energy, grumpy or sad old ghosts, or entities of a darker nature. One such space I know like this is the House of the Wolf and the Raven. That's what I call it, anyway. In the most regular sense, it's an older Victorian home on top of a hill near the town where I work. It's owned by my friend and her husband. You could call my friend a kind of white witch, similar to myself. She has a strong connection and affinity towards animal spirits and Native American spirituality. Her house is like a shrine to all things of this nature. She's also an artist, a tarot reader, which is how I met her, an energy practitioner, and a writer. The house is covered with animal art, indigenous masks from multiple cultures, ritual objects of Native American origin, and countless books about spirituality, art, and nature. Everything in the space is intentional and beautiful, leaving one with a sense of reverence and potency towards all things creative and mysterious. I house sit for my friend when she and her husband travel. Sometimes it's for weeks, other times it's just for a few days. But every time I'm at the House of the Wolf and Raven, my roots grow deeper into the energy of the house, and the roots of the house grow deeper into me. I'm going to share a few strange occurrences I experienced at this house over the last 2 years, which have built on my feeling that multiple spirits exist in this space, or that the energy in the house produces spiritual energy that's interacted with me more than once. The first experience was my first time at the house. My friend took me on a tour of the house, which was a delightful winding experience through the hallways, stairways, a private movie theater, an art studio, and a very interesting office space. The office space had two entrances, one leading from the theater and the other leading to the two upstairs bedrooms. My friend led me into the office, which I could tell at once was also a ritual space. I had never felt a room pulse the way this room did, especially when I stood next to a large cabinet near the end of the room. I discovered this was her ritual cabinet, filled with her tarot cards and other important items and tools. I was delighted at this experience. I'd never experienced anything so physical when it came to spiritual energy. It was the first time I could feel energy in a physical space that way and know what I was feeling. The first or second time I stayed over at the house, I was taking a nap in the spare bedroom, which was next to the ritual office room. I still wasn't entirely comfortable staying somewhere that potent energy-wise. Every time I stay there, I learn a little more about how to relax into it. But this time I was a bit on edge. I remember waking up from my nap because I heard music. I'd wondered if I left music on my phone playing, but I hadn't. I could clearly hear the voice of a woman singing a Native American tune. It was beautiful and haunting, strangely soothing. "No thank you," I said softly. I had to be there for 2 weeks, and I had to work most of the time. I didn't want spirits to come and visit me while I was trying to sleep, but I was grateful that the experience I had wasn't frightening, but lovely and almost comforting. I always have a sense that I'm being observed or that I'm not alone at the house. I always have my little French bulldog Butter with me when I go. My friend has outside cats I care for, but no animals inside. Not living animals anyway. I noticed for the first time I started staying there that Butter has a tendency to wander off inside the house. This in and of itself is bizarre behavior for her. She's always beside me. I would go so far as to say Butter suffers from separation anxiety. Yet, when I'm at my friend's house, more often than not, I'll find her in the back hallway, either sitting or lying underneath the shrine my friend made for her late dog, whose name was Shanala. There's a tribute to her above the runner rug with a bit of her fur, and one of her claws attached to a painting of a heart with wings and paw prints. I'm sure there could be a logical explanation for why Butter prefers to be there, instead of in her soft doggy bed in the kitchen, but I haven't figured it out yet. I've spent time in the ritual room when I visit, and sometimes I set up my own space to do my own spiritual work. There was one time last October, on a long visit, when I'd been doing some rather intense personal path working, and I was meditating in that space. I had a flash of a vision of the foyer downstairs. In the foyer there were two large statues, one of a lion and the other of a black panther, on either side of the large ironwork double doors. I saw them clearly in my vision, but I also saw a jaguar sitting between them. This jaguar was not a statue, and it turned its head and looked directly at me. I nearly jumped out of my skin at this. It was sudden and unexpected. I do have visions sometimes, but this one felt very intense. When my friend returned home from Guatemala, she told me she'd gotten something very special. She brought me an item wrapped in cloth and proceeded to show me a ritual jaguar mask made of wood and painted bright colors. I stared at her, afraid to touch the mask. I've learned a thing or two about items like this, and I generally don't touch them unless I absolutely need to. I ended up telling her the story, and she smiled at me like she knew something I didn't. In hindsight, I take this as a very good sign. Jaguar energy, while intense, helps us through times of initiation, when we're developing our personal sense of integrity and internal boundaries with life. At that time, I was navigating some very difficult situations around my job, and I really wasn't sure what to do. During my stay at the house, I got a lot of personal perspective that helped me navigate my situation. I believe the jaguar spirit was part of that, and still is. My most recent experience at the house happened the last time I was there, about 2 weeks ago. This was the strangest experience yet. I was asleep and I woke up because I needed to use the bathroom. I always lock the bathroom door and leave the hallway light on leading to the bedroom. As I mentioned, I'm comfortable at the house, but I prefer a confined space when I sleep. It's also my way of setting a boundary around my sleep time. I always want to remind the spirits in the house that I'm off limits while I'm sleeping. They don't always listen, but I still tried my best to make that a rule. I got up, and when I walked into the hallway, I could hear an alarm clock going off in the master bedroom. It was very strange. It unnerved me, and I almost chose to ignore it and go back to bed. But I thought it through and decided to go and turn off the alarm. Part of cohabiting with spirits is about letting them know you're not afraid of them, being assertive and having the courage to set boundaries. I walked into the bedroom and saw that it was exactly midnight. I couldn't figure out how to turn off the alarm, so I unplugged it from the wall. As soon as I did that, I became aware of the sound of voices, like 2 or 3 people talking, but the voices were muffled. At first it sounded like someone might have a television on in the office, but I knew no one else was there, and there was no TV in the office. I stood still and listened. The more I paid attention, the more I could hear it, but when I stopped focusing on it, the sound seemed further and further away. That was what told me that whatever I was hearing, it wasn't actually happening in the physical world. Confident there were no intruders in the house, I went back to my bedroom, shut the door, and went back to sleep, happy to let the spirits carry on whatever conversation they wanted to have without me. I won't lie though, that one creeped me out. I've yet to tell my friend it happened, or asked her why she had an alarm set for midnight. I'll have to save that story for another time. Until then, I hope you enjoyed hearing about some of my experiences at the House of the Wolf and the Raven. I work in the pediatric hospital in the cardiac ICU as a night shift nurse. The interesting thing about my unit is we keep our patients from admission to discharge. The patient I was caring for was getting ready for discharge and was as healthy of a child as we get. He was about 6 months old at the time and had been struggling to sleep at night. Basically, he'd scream if he was left alone in his room. This particular night, his parents couldn't stay, so I was caring for him and another sicker patient. I had done all the baby things with him and was trying to get him to sleep when my other patient started to alarm. I quickly placed him in a Mamaroo, a plug-in swing where you can set the swing type and intensity. Most kids settle when we set the swing to car ride at speed 5. So I did this, gave him his pacifier, turned the lights out, and hoped for the best. After about half an hour I realized he hadn't started crying, so I poked my head in and found him fast asleep. I only had to do assessments on him every 4 hours, but I checked on him every half hour or so. The first hour and a half passed by with no concerns. At about the 2-hour mark, I walked in and realized the light on the screen to set the settings was out. I blew it off as a glitch, but the swing was still going and the baby was asleep, so we were good. A little before the 3-hour mark, I stuck my head in because he had started fussing a little. As I watched, the Mamaroo changed from car ride at 5 to kangaroo mode, and the screen was still black. I watched my patient wiggle a little in the swing and settle back to sleep. At this point, I walked up to my charge and said, something strange just happened in room 16, and then proceeded to tell her what happened. She responded with, nope, 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 I don't do ghosts, and walked away. Another coworker overheard and asked if I'd tried to change the settings back because it might have just been a glitch or something. I believe in ghosts and have had multiple experiences throughout my life, and I'm not easily scared. So I went back into the room and attempted to push buttons and try to change the settings. I pushed literally every button on that Mamaroo, and nothing changed. The light wouldn't come on, the settings wouldn't change, and it wouldn't even turn off. At this point, my patient was sleeping well and wasn't in danger, so I let it ride. I figured I'd have to go wake him up in an hour or so anyway. I was strongly suspicious of some ghostly interference with the swing, but wasn't complaining. A couple of my coworkers, on the other hand, were dead set that it was just a glitch. What happened next, though, changed all of their minds. I went into the room and was quietly getting my supplies ready for my assessment and to give him his meds that were due. I had everything ready and turned to pull the plug from the wall and pick him up. Before I took a single step towards him, he opened his eyes and looked right at me, and the moment our eyes connected, the swing stopped moving. I had instant chills and had to step out of the room for a second. I took a breath in the hallway and walked back into the room and pulled the cute little kiddo from the swing. I wasn't sure who or what was keeping the swing going, but just for good measure, while I did my assessment, I said out loud to the room, "Thank you for keeping the swing going and helping him stay asleep. He needed a good night's rest."